Well, we're in Brisbane, so we have to catch up with the man of the year, John McLeod.
Man of the year, shit.
Man of the year. Well, you were a very unhappy John McLeod since the last. I think it was probably almost 12 months since we caught up, wasn't it?
Yeah, it was
something like that.
Early last year was just a tough time for us. We sort of went through a pretty. We were changing a few things, and then we got further away from what our real little target niche type of area was, and we stuffed around, and then we finally come back and started again, and it's worked out pretty good since.
It has. I mean, I think we're not pissing in the pocket because we say it all the time, but I think as far as everybody over the journey, if we were to remove that little 4-month period, you've probably been as successful, as profitable, as consistent as anyone. So let's talk about that, because it's a great lesson for people trying to make profit out of punting. You went through a bad patch. What went wrong? What you said you were moving away from your thing? What was that all about?
We just changed it. We changed the database, but the database was better than the one we had. But it did a few things that we weren't. We didn't know whether it would work or not, and we didn't trust it enough. And then all of a sudden we started trusting it, and then we started trying to get away from it again, and it just was a shambles. Anything that you change, it does take 12 months to finally bed down something. And, it was no different to us, and I think we just thought we could get up and running straight away, and it wasn't the case. And now we're back where we are. I'm going to be very cautious about actually making a big change like we did last time.
Because that's where Mark and I have often joked, unhappy John. There's unhappy John.
I just want consistency.
Yeah.
I hate when I want to punt. I don't want to go through 2 or 3 losses and 2 or 3 wins. I want to have 5 wins and 1 loss. But you don't want to win a truckload in the 5. You want to be very consistent.
Yeah.
It takes the mental thing out of you as well. If you're stringing 4 losses and 1 win and you're winning, geez, mentally you're going to be stuffed at the end of it, because you think after the first 4 losses you start questioning what you do is right, it's not right. Then all of a sudden you kick a goal on the 5th one, and you think, oh no, everything's sweet again. Then you go through another 4 losses, and then you kick a goal, and you're winning, but mentally it's doing your head.
Yeah, exactly right. And it is that consistent feeling of winning and feeling of even just cheering a winner, even though we try to grind it into a bit more of a business mind. It is those endorphins that are released, that need to be released.
Like throwing TV screens out the window, throwing phones and things. And, there's a few mates of mine who do that sort of thing, and bloody hell, I can't cop that at all, really. I just want to be peace. Bit of peace.
See why we like you. Just for those who don't know, John, obviously you've been on board now with us for quite a few years now, I think. But focusing on Brisbane, you have one of the most brilliant databases, the way that it generates information, and it's a big part of your success.
Yeah, we got a database, and it gives us sort of like a starting point, and then we throw it into another little program of ours, and we use market influence and a few other things that intellectual property that we've come up with, sort of thing, and it just gives us a little edge, and that's what everyone's trying to find. Is a little edge. I think that's what the new punters out there. If you've got an idea, run with it, give it a little. Kick along, find a program that you can work with, and a cheap one if you can find one, and throw all those ideas at it, and just keep on working. Keep building.
What? Speaking with Stewie Davidson over the time, I mean, the challenge obviously to be able to get set is the main thing, but he was mentioning that his profit on turnover, when it was around about the 10% mark, it's now dropped down to about the 3% mark. Is that something that you're finding now? Is it harder to maintain that general 10% profit on turnover, or what are the goals you're looking for?
Yeah, our profit on turnover would be the same, but our turnover is dropped.
Yeah,
so it's the same. I was telling Todd there before that I was saying Victorian TAB. I tried to have 400 on something the other day at $15 like that. and they come back and said 75. And it was only about 5 or 10 minutes to go before the race. I said, stuff was unbelievable.
Yeah.
That horse went from $15 into $11 because we didn't go back it. And then about 4 or 5 other corporates actually followed them.
Yeah.
So it shortened up the number.
So yes, and just because you wanted to have what did back to win? What was went to win 4,000?
56.
Yeah, 56. Yeah.
So, but the problem, when I got the shits, so I said, okay, well,
Yeah.
it was 500 and something at $10 that I didn't want.
Yeah.
And they come back and said 100. And I said, no, I don't want it. So
Yeah.
that $10 shot went from $10 to $7. Every other corporate followed him again. So I actually shorted 3 horses without actually.
It's because you do.
Isn't that ridiculous?
It is.
That, the whole
Yeah.
racing is done on turnover.
Well, that's the model, isn't it, John? That's the model we're in, and there's so many things that just don't. Well, most of the things that happen in betting do nothing but discourage turnover.
It is. And
And you come from both sides of it too. I mean, you come from the bookmaking side as well as the punting side.
That's right. I just can't work out. I hear you talk all the time about this turnover model, and I'm thinking, but it's so right. How come so many people don't understand?
Because nobody in administration understands wagering. It's always been this just pot that just arrives, and it must be at the end of the month, and the big bag comes in and says, "There's your turnover." But something has to give, doesn't it? Eventually, because it's
What will give is racing.
yeah, that's right.
Racing will give, and there'll be no turnover. Everyone will be racing for $5 out there. There'll be no one buying horses and putting their hand up, so the breeders won't come at Horse Street if their horses are only paying $5 for them.
The only problem with that is, I suppose, the breeders are going to be the last ones to feel it, because it'll still hold at the top end for a while, and then it will just drop, and then they'll go, "Oh shit, what happened? Guess what? Somebody turned the lights off."
That's right. It's like slides. But something has to change. Just and then as soon as they wake up.
Yeah, exactly right. So it's the same challenges here trying to bet in Queensland as it is everywhere else.
I think the whole thing is to try to get people back to the track, because that's where you get a feel,
Yes.
you get and you get emotion happening. You get everything is happening. So
Passing on of knowledge.
Well, why not? When I was 17, 18, I'd go down there and have a drink, and I'd see money. Some bloke I thought, Jack Humming or someone like that, running around. I'd say, geez, I want to be on him, so I'd run down to the ledge and have a bet.
Yeah.
Now, there's not one pro punter out there now that the public would want to back, to follow.
Yeah.
So to actually get those people back to pro punters, they've got to actually get back the corporates to the races, bring them back in. So if they get a license, their sole thing that they've got to do is put a stand up at the races and bet to a certain.
Absolutely. I mean, I think even the corporates know that they have to pay their way somehow. But make a deal, and I think that a lot of it comes down to the abrasiveness, and especially from our fearless leader in New South Wales and Peter Valandi, who basically not only didn't even try to embrace it, try to drive them out of business. Now, they're the people that collect the money. They're the clip. They're entitled to the clip of the ticket on the way through because they're doing it. So work with them.
But yeah, that's right. They are taking their clip. But the thing is that if the body that takes the big clip, like the racing industry takes clip off the corporate bookies just pass it on to the punter.
Exactly. That's right.
So they're not taking it off the bookies.
No,
they're taking it
that's
off
right.
The
And as we know, the more they increase the turnover tax, which they've announced so wisely recently, is the less it's going to be, because the more margins that margin gets creeped into. So people will bet on footy.
I think there's around about 3% of turnover that they do. You've got to pay on racecourse legislation, bookies or something, and if they put them back to the track, brought them back to the track, and they said, okay, if you're on track, you only able to pay 2.5%.
Yep.
And maybe if that 0.5% is thrown back into giving punters something, making it really encouraging to be at the track.
That's right. Yeah. Even if it's just facilities.
That's right.
Yeah.
0.5% on turnover of what goes on out there.
Yeah.
Is bloody.
That's right. Is it create a marketplace? Create an environment. I mean, I don't think there's many sports that don't benefit from having a crowd, and the crowd there should be people betting, not people getting drunk.
Well, that's right, and they start betting. And they don't go to races every week, but they'll go away and they'll have a bet, on the TAB
Yeah.
corporates are,
They're engaged,
They're
John.
back in.
They're
back in.
engaged.
They're not disappearing.
Yeah.
And they're punching them out because who wants to actually, who wants to ring up a corporate bookie at the moment and sort of say, no, you can only back a horse to win $50.
Yeah, that's right. Exactly right. Especially when they're they're worldwide corporations spending multi-million dollars worth of advertising, encouraging people to bet, and then you can't. Anyway, well that's the landscape.
I've had my bitch.
Yeah, that's right. And the thing is, the more people do that, the more people are more likely to buy your set. How good that is. So we need. In the time, obviously, we've spoken a few times with you, but I know Matt asked you once, what are some of the secrets of your things, of your success, and the things you looked at? You gave him 5 points. I want to go over a couple of these 5 points with you that you sort of brought down. You said, yeah, exactly right. You said, were they 5? What were they? Don't let go at a horse that doesn't hit the line.
That's just a quality one. Just if a horse is not hitting the line, well, there's either something wrong with it. It hasn't got the distance. It's feeling something. There's so many things that could be a problem for that horse, with that horse. And so why would you want to back a horse that's not attacking the line?
How do you measure that though? Is it times? Is it eye? Is it feel? What's pace? Yeah. Versus the pace. Yep. So how it's going versus the rest of it. Yeah, okay. Did you just look like you're giving away something there? We're not cutting that out. Yeah, so you guilty. Gold. Okay, we'll move along there. But did you just note that he felt uncomfortable? That's unhappy John. Bias all powerful.
No matter, sectionals are a great thing. They're a big thing in racing, but it doesn't matter. If a horse can run an unbelievable section, he can't beat those. You'll see so many times on a track that's a leader's track, they go out probably 15 lengths above par, and the leaders win. The back markers can't. They just can't win. And that's just proving that there's a bias. There's a massive bias, and that's something that you can, your stuff that you give out and sell. When you see that type of information, it can't be anything else but bias. That is gold. And just put a line through those back markers and start again and look for his previous run.
And the part B of that point was to avoid horses who have been assisted by bias. I know that's one thing that get the PR, I suppose, because of the bias.
Oh, that's right. A horse flies home out wide and sort of when it's sectional assisted as well, it's even a double thing that it looks good, but there's too many positives that it's had in its favour. You've got to. As a form bloke trying to rate those type of horses, what do you take off those horses? Do you take 2 lengths? Do you take 3 lengths off? Do you take 6? So you might take 2 off in 6 to 4 in the market, and you take 2 off it, and you've got it even. That doesn't mean that you could have taken 5 lengths off it and made it in 3s. So it's a matter of how much I just don't want to be on horses that are coming race.
Look at the speed of the race, but work against the market opinion. It's an interesting one. It's sort of the suggestion that it's the overreaction, is it? Or?
Well, I think a lot of people, they get on there and say there's no speed in this race. There might not be, but by the time that race comes around, there could have been a track bias into it. So all of a sudden the trainers or the jockeys are going to be aware of it. So all of a sudden they're going to be pushing forward when they go back. So the pace of the race could actually change. And if there's no bias, that you think that there's no bias, but the call is actually saying, oh geez, all leaders are winning.
Yes.
Well, then all of a sudden, there's a lot of things you can change and work with.
I mean, in markets that are quite sophisticated, there still is enough unsophistication, I suppose, in thought to be able to get that edge, as you say.
That's right. Well, the unsophistication is coming from people that are just making an observation from what they see as what they're watching, instead of actually seeing the section of working it out. What horses have actually done, what they've done, how they 50 to 1 shots.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, the two's on favourites won, three links under average pace early, and it's won. Well, shouldn't have. Hello.
That's right. It's all this stuff that the callers are beautiful in doing this, because they create something that's not actually there.
And have for years. And I suppose it's the same with media presenters on racing. They're more journalists, and they're not punters. They're not hardcore punters, and that is what's educated the public about.
That's totally right.
That's why we're changing on the punter show. We're just going to ruin our market. I love this one. The value at the top end. People so often confuse the term, I suppose, big odds with value, and it comes so much down to percentage.
Well, it does. And as we were saying before, that Stewie said he was down to 3% or something like that. It comes back to percentages. So if you can get like 2 to 1, 33%, leavers 50 to 70%, try to get 70%.
Yeah, exactly right. That's right. It has to go a long way out, doesn't it? And just to explain, so people don't understand that comes down to basically backing a horse to win a certain amount. Well,
it's more, 10, like a $2 shot. You should win every second go.
Yeah.
So if you're taking 4 to 5, $1.80, well, you're in a lot of trouble. Because he's going to only win 1 and 2, and so you're going to keep on. It's like the roulette table.
Just keep spin.
You're going to lose eventually if you keep on playing sort of thing. So you've got to just keep on getting value, and you've got to have in your head what you think a certain horse, what price it should be. But you've also got to be willing to let the market tell you on a few horses, not on all of them, because a lot of them you do know, but the ones you don't know, let the market tell you what's going on and adjust your market accordingly.
Beautiful. Our stakes are coming, so we'll wrap this up pretty quick. If you can secure the race by backing 1, 2 or 3 runners and still have value, bet up, and that comes down to, I think, what our good mate Anthony Jupp on Twitter, who absolutely loves your stuff, calls it the klaxon. You get the big klaxon out, and it's the we've had race 1, we might have a unit here, race 2 a unit here, race 3 unit here, race 5 500 units there. Not quite as obvious, normally about 10 or 12 or something like that, but that's sort of zoning in, and that's talking about your staking plan, I suppose, in some way.
I suppose it's all. The only way you're going to get value is if there's a horse probably in the race that you've got a hell of a lot longer than what the market is. And when that's the case, you've got to check on that horse, double check, triple check, because you know you're betting in this race.
Yeah.
And if you're confident with what the figures that you've come up with on that horse that you don't like, well, then you've just got to roll the dice. You've got to play hard, because after they don't come up very often.
They come up once a week for you. And I think their strike rate's about 99.9% over the last little bit.
It's funny because sometimes it could be $3.50 or something like that, and then all of a sudden it comes into $2.60 or $2.50. But by it coming into the $2.50, it might open up a few other doors as well.
That's right.
You're still betting against that one horse. All of a sudden, you might be able to sort of just have a safe bet on a couple of others.
Just a little chop out.
Give them the rubbish. You keep the gold.
Give them the rubbish. You keep the gold. Well, the gold is MacBeth Gold, and it's John McLeod said available for every Saturday, as it always is. And also now the added bonus is the little sneaky ones throughout the week. The 1 or 2 little tips here, there, and everywhere that you might find that you just get sent out as a text message as well too, which are proving very fruitful as well.
Yeah, we try to do that, but we might do it once, twice, 3 times a week, or probably more 1 or 2.
Yeah, when it's right.
It's got to be right, and it's they're either winning or second or third. They're going to be hard to beat.
Perfect. So what is it? You keep the gold, you give them the rubbish.
Correct.
Beautiful. Great to see you, mate.
Cheers, mate.
Good work. Thank you. John McLeod. Here he is again.